Welcome to Coffee and Poets, right here at Nicket Coffee on 11th and 8th Streets. This is the podcast, and we have a few people in the audience. Very cool. Yeah. Today we are going to be interviewing Mr. Sean King. Put your hands together for Sean King. Yes. Yeah. All right, put your hands together one more time for Sean King. Had to get down on microphone. Yes. Yes, no grandstanding over there. Somebody clap it out of turn. All right, so how you doing?
I'm good.
All right.
This is Cali.
Yeah.
Sunshine.
I know, it's so weird right now, right? Oh, it's like we must be having rain and it's a drought this year, and people are talking about you can't flush your toilet and crap. No, and don't crap.
So it'll be dirty like New Jersey pretty soon.
I know. It'll be like scratching your neck, like, ooh. So I want you to start out with a poem, and then we're going to get right into who Sean King is and everything. So can you start us out with a poem, and then we going to tackle the Sean King legacy?
All right, so we'll do...
I can't think of the word for that.
Wow.
Monument. The monument.
So we'll do
Monumental.
something vowish, love-related. You know, I got the couples over there arguing about time. So to love, to be in, to commit and to begin life together, I will cherish each and every moment that we share forever. May love provide the backbone for our future endeavors. May the Lord provide the wisdom to make our love last forever. Through good times, I do. Through bad times, I love you. Through all times, I will be true. I'm willing to accept you for who you are, my earth, my moon, my morning star. You are my ocean, my waves, my embracing wind. You are the reason that I live. You are my true friend. And I dedicate my life to you from now until forever. You and I together. I love you. I do. Eternity, how long I want to be with you. So.
All right, that's nice love poem on Women's History Month.
Yeah, I'm trying to foster, trying to keep the love going and keep the couples happy.
Yes, yes, the war between genders.
And engineering and non-engineering, right?
Right, engineering. My brother over there doing the whole electrical engineering thing, which is very cool. Right, I don't have the brains for it, but I'm totally artistic. Not autistic, but artistic. Yes, I'm not that. Yeah, okay. Speaking of electrical engineering, what do you do during your daytime? What's daytime, Sean King, like? I know that you are a mild-mannered person during the day, but what kind of superhero are you during the day?
During the day, I do computer engineering work. I basically manage a team of network engineers. So all throughout the day, it's all technical. It's all people who don't have good communication skills, arguing with each other, fighting, with each other over problems that are going on at work, and me coming in trying to, broker peace deals, essentially. But it's cool. I mean, the work that we do, if there's a problem with some system or something with the computers where the whole organization is going down, that's when my team gets called in. So, it's pretty exciting. Like I told my kids the other day, that S that Superman wears on his chest is for Sean because even he has a hero.
So humble of you. Like even Superman has to have a hero, and that hero is me. Now get in your room and clean it. So we're going to. So you are a regular person during the day, right? A mild-mannered, regular, humble IT worker during the day that just happens to save the internet every single day. So okay, I want to approach this very sensitively. How many books have you written?
That would be 3 books of poetry, 1 book on health-related issues for the state of California, And I think that's it.
Okay, so you got 4 books. I thought there was more than that.
There's 4 that I count.
Okay, okay. I was so, because to me, one day you came with like a duffel bag full of books. One time when we was at, where was it? It was Soul Collector when it was on Del Paso.
Before they burned it up.
Before they burned it down for the insurance money. Right. But so you got 4 books that you've written. So which one is the most favorite book that you have written?
I think Hypnotisms, which was I guess if I'm counting all 4, then it was the 4th book that I wrote, and that one was my favorite. It was about, that one was 120 poems, a couple of 100 pages. That was the one where. So I remember my first book, right? And when I did my first book, I remember I was excited. I put the book together. I, met with Frank Winther over at McClatchy, and then he gave me some game, and I put it all into this book. And I remember I was selling it for $5, and I give it to somebody, and I'm like, yeah, this book's $5. I say, oh, that's cool. You should write a real book. because the quality didn't look like, it was handmade. It was like made in the USA. And then the second book, I improved the quality. My binding got better. Everything got better, but it was still kind of the same response. That's cool, man. You should think about writing a book. What's going on here? And so when Hypnotisms came, I went to the bookstores. I studied the way the books looked, the way they were laid out. It was kind of, right on the edge of the internet, so I didn't have as much research there. But I just spent a lot of time, just thumbing through books and pulling them off the shelf and looking at the spine and looking at everything. And then I, was able to put it together. And it turned out better than I expected. I found a business who had never really did, printing of books. And so I got a sweet deal because they didn't know what they were doing, just like, And so, I was making them, and it turned out well.
Okay. So, but nowadays, it's so much easier to self-publish nowadays than it was before the internet, right?
It's definitely is.
Yeah. So what would you tell a aspiring self-publishing person to do now?
I would tell them to really, even though you can put your stuff out there really quickly, I would tell them to still put the time in. Don't rush to put it on the shelf just because you can. Because it's still a reflection of you. It's still a reflection of who you are as a person and your art, as a whole. And so still take the time. Act like you're going to go through a publisher. Take the time to edit it. Take the time to lay it out correctly. Take the time to put it together. Because as easy as it is now, you also see, proliferation of garbage that's out there because people don't have, there's no checks and balances. Before you had a rejection when you try to go through a publishing company, or you had to front a whole lot of money, so you had to get it right when you're trying to self-publish. And now it's, so I would just tell people to really take the time to do the work and make sure that the product is quality. And if it takes you a year to get it out there, 2 years to get it out there, make sure it's something that you can stand by and not just something you're trying to make money on. Because people, they don't read as much as you think anyway.
Yes, I noticed that. It's like people. Usually when you publish a book, when you publish a poetry book, people don't really read the book. They just buy it to support you, right? They like, oh, this is nice, and then they get home, they throw it on the shelf, right? And then because not too many people read poetry nowadays, it's like they more want to hear you read it than actually them read it themselves, right? So I don't know too many people that actually say, oh yeah, I read your book, that you gave me or that I bought from you. It was a great book that I read. So did you get that same kind of response with Hypnotism or?
Well, Hypnotisms was interesting because,
did they actually read your book when they bought it from you?
Well, when I made it, I think my break-even point for Hypnotisms was $75. So if I sold 7 books, I was in the clear, and anything above that was really profit. And so Hypnotisms. So I had this issue where I'm an artist, I'm a poet, I'm an engineer, so the whole sales thing didn't really work for me. So I'm, being a shy salesman, you just walking around with a book, and it's like, well, if you want it, you can buy it, but, you're not really pushing it the way you should. And so I went and I spoke to some high school students, and they really wanted to buy it. I was like, what's going on here? And, they bought like 20, 25 copies, the first day. But what's really interesting about hypnotism is I have family members today and other people who I've seen that I've maybe met one time in my life saying, man, I still got that hypnotism book, and I need a new copy because it's falling apart. I've read it so much.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And so it's strange. It's almost like a cult classic almost.
Very good.
But yeah.
Very good. Very good. So, okay, I'm going to ask you a technology question. My computer is broke at home. I want you to know.
I got a friend named Josh that actually does that. It's funny when I get home and I really don't. My family will call and start talking to me about their computer problems. I'm like, man, call iFixtronics or call my friend Josh or somebody else. But I really don't have time to.
Okay. Let's get out of my personal issues. All right. I'm gonna ask you a question. So right now we have a intersection of art and technology right now. Mm-hmm. So how do you see, or what do you see affecting poetry right now, especially with ebooks, right? Mm-hmm. You have this whole ebook thing happening where artists or poets used to be able to make money off their books. Now, people want to buy ebooks now, or not even buy them. They can download them from free from Amazon.com, or it's very inexpensive. So where do you see technology and art going in the next 5 years?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword. Honestly, it's from a technology standpoint, you can reach people that you've never reached before, as far as your art and your work and things like that. But the double-edged sword portion of it is, with so much of it out there, people are inundated, with so much stuff. How do you get people to actually look at yours and decide that they want to really read it or ingest it or, look into it? And how do you get people to support art? How do you get people to buy art when it's so much free stuff out there? And everybody is, I'm a computer guy, so, it's like CDs and music. I won't go too much into it, but let's just say, it's just one of those things where how do you support people and keep people, interested in doing art? How do you keep them in that, in that realm without chasing them off to doing some 9-to-5 that they really hate, because they can't make a living doing any kind of art. And then my other concern from a technology standpoint is, what would the archaeologists see in the future about, what we wrote, who we were, what we did in life? Because you're going to dig up a computer, dig up a computer chip and be able to do what with it? Mm-hmm. So, I have a concern that there's, we're moving away from the written, work, because that's also a reflection. That's one of the ways our history gets documented is on those pages. Mm-hmm. People can dig up pages and fight over, what was what and what was written. And I don't really know how that, how that ties into computers,
Well, to me, technology is going. It's almost like when you get older, you regress, right? When people say, "Oh, when you get older, people become more childlike," and I think society is like that. The more we get older in our society, the more we return to the way we used to be, like the oratoric traditions of Africa, or even the oratory traditions of the early 1800s, where they actually would give stump speeches and things like that, and they would use that oratory kind of delivery style. So how do you feel about spoken word, and how does it feel in Orthodox how does it fit into Orthodox poetry, where you have the academic side, and then you have the urban side of poetry. So what do you see? How do they? I
guess I've always really found it interesting that the people who basically say that they bend the rules of society, have this infight about, Orthodox poetry, versus urban poetry, because it's, poets, when you meet poets, they're kind of already on, even in the academic world, they're kind of a little different. They're really on the outskirts of society in a lot of ways. And so to have this, you're not following the rules of poetry, I think that's horrible in itself. I think there's room really for it all. I think it has to continue to grow. It has to continue to move, beyond your Frost and your Shakespearean poets. It has to be something that people can relate to as, society grows. Because it's really, for me, it's all about messages. It's all about, touching people in a way that's meaningful and not just, the academic, did you follow, the rules of a sonnet? Did you follow the rules of a haiku? Which, depending on if you're talking Americanized or you're talking Japanese, we have different, visions of what haiku even is. So I think there's room for it all. Spoken word in itself, I think it's great that there's a lot of spoken word out there because it's for people who say, well, I don't like poetry. It's introducing a lot more people to the art form. The downside, of course, is, there's a lot more emphasis sometimes on the performance aspect of it, and people don't write as much. I think a lot of times the spoken word artists that I meet that are purely spoken word artists, they don't write enough for me. They're constantly trying to memorize and figure out, what they can do to move people on the stage. And I think that's the, kind of the downside of it. But I think there's room for it all, and I think it's great that it's, all of those different genres are out there. So
very cool. So let's get into another poem. Yes, y'all want to hear another poem, right? Yes. Yeah. That's what we're here for.
We're doing erotic poetry today? No.
You do whatever you want, as long as you don't get naked on stage, I'm cool.
I thought this was the naked lounge.
It's not literal, man. It's figurative.
It's time to push the envelope, bro.
Yes. I don't want to see no tassels on your nipples. No. Now, if you can make them twirl, then I might want to see that. Because that kind of like, that's interesting to me. I don't know how they do that.
So this is what I was concerned about.
I'm ill prepared for this interview.
All right. This is a piece I actually wrote for Whitney Houston. So I'll just jump into it. It's called Sunday Morning Reflections. And so I guess one of the things, for me is, I'm touched by the things that are going on in other people's lives. So a lot of the poetry I write, and you'll get that argument with poets sometimes where they're like, well, I won't write about it if it's not happening in my personal life. Well, I'm the opposite side. If it's happening in your life, I'll write about that too.
Because I see how much a train wreck your life is. So I'm going to write about that.
But have you ever sat down and spent quality time with drug addicts? Have you witnessed the turmoil, the struggle, the pain they go through in their life? Have you seen the vicious cycle as they come to grips with the fact that they have a problem but just can't seem to find a way to break free of their addiction? Have you ever been around a drug user who's overcome their addiction? They count their life in days of sobriety. They constantly look over their shoulder, hoping nothing will send them back to the dark place again. They pray for the strength to stay clean, knowing the difficulty of life may yet again become too much for them to handle. I'll tell you, it's painful to watch. Maybe their habit started off as a recreational and fun. Maybe it was pain medicine. Maybe it was an escape from the post-traumatic nightmares of a trying life, or maybe there were psychological factors involved. However it started, by the time the drugs dug their hooks in, their addiction was no longer recreational in nature. They were no longer users going on a joyride. They were human beings struggling to cope, praying to be free, beaten by life who had adapted a destructive coping mechanism. I speak this because we continue to paint inaccurate pictures of drug abuse. In our actions, in our words, we show our arrogance for life, our ignorance of our own human frailties. We overestimate our own strength. We don't use drugs, so we think we're better than them. Winehouse, Whitney, better than the millions of lost souls who lost their way, who have fallen from the pedestals that humans built. Our assessment of their situation reaps the stupidity as we say things like, it's unfortunate that her lifestyle led to this. Time and time again, we fail to understand that we are all sinners. We all have vices that lead us to dark places. We all have secrets we pray never see the light of day. All of our lives will lead us to this point someday, where we will stand before God at the gates of heaven, stripped of our earthly titles and accomplishments, bereft of our prestige, and naked, judged solely on the merits of our humanity. When it's all said and done, death is the only guarantee we have in life. Whitney, I've never walked in your shoes. I don't know what it's like to be placed on a pedestal and then targeted, to be by the same people who once admired you, to be adored and then have humanity turn their back on you because you found it impossible to live up to the image we've created. Whitney, I don't know what it's like to have every moment of your life, good or bad, broadcast, analyzed, discussed by rappers, publicly raping your character in front of your child while you were still alive. Even now, we send our blessings half-heartedly. Whitney, I don't know what it's like to be asked to cope with the insatiable expectations that we place on our brightest stars or the pain you've had to endure, but I do pray that you finally found the peace you deserve and that God forgives us. Once again, we have failed to embrace one of the angels that he gave to us for the purpose of lifting our souls. Again, we have proven ourselves to be unworthy. Whitney.
Words. Okay, so you deal with a lot of stuff in your poetry. I've heard you over the years do an assortment of poetry. You have poetry that goes from race, dealing with race, and you have poetry that deals with, very guru-like, subject matter where you're like, everything's all right. You should feel the sun on your skin, and you should just disappear into the sky and all that kind of stuff. So I would like to know, like, how did you start? I mean, especially a man being in the IT world, right? How did you start seeing poetry? What did it start out as, just an outlet for you, or was it just, before you start taking it seriously, or how did it grip you? Did you see somebody perform and like, oh my God, I want to do that, or how did that come about?
It actually started first as a class assignment for an English class in high school. We were asked to write a sonnet, and for some reason my sonnet was dealing with race and other stuff. I don't know if that's what the teacher wanted or expected, but it started off as a class assignment, and I really wasn't into it at that point. I thought it was neat. I said, oh, this poetry thing is okay. And then I moved to Sacramento, and I was bored out of my mind. I'm walking around because at that point, I think it was the first summer I was here where it really, caught on for me, because I was not working yet, riding the light rail, riding the buses, and all of those things. And I was just bored out of my mind. I really didn't have shit else to do. So I just started writing, whatever I was feeling, whatever I was going through, and it just, it started to stick. And so at first I'd never heard anybody perform poetry. I'd only read some of the poets from the past, of course, Shakespeare, but, also Langston Hughes and Nikki Giovanni and, Sonia Sanchez and poets like that. And so I didn't really know that there was a place where you can share your poetry. So I was a closet poet, like a lot of poets that I've met, through the years. I had a stack of, stuff that I wrote that I never shared with anybody. And then you always have the one family member or the one friend who kind of nudges you. Oh, that's pretty good. You should find a way to share this. And so that's kind of really where it started for me was, as a closet poet, bored out of my mind in Sacramento, getting the girls at the bus stop, and using poetry as a pastime in between then.
Yes, girls at the bus stop, yes.
It was a coping mechanism too, because, I grew up in Bakersfield, California, and there was definitely a lot of racism and a lot of, things that I seen growing up, whether it was the gang banging or it was the racism or it was the expectation that you're only going to live to be 25 years old as a young black male, or the police, stuff that you dealt with. And so, I was angry, so I needed something constructive as a coping mechanism. And so the poetry did that. So I didn't write any, love poems. All my shit was angry. I was, fuck the world, and fuck all these racists and, everything. So everything was really angry at first, and I wish I had wrote some love poetry because maybe I would have been more successful at those bus stops. But you gotta love Sacramento.
So how did your children change your poetry world? Because how was your poetry before, pre-child, and then your poetry post-child? Have you? I've never heard of. Oh yeah, you have wrote a poem about your children, right? You have a couple of poems about your children.
I think really my wife changed my poetry more than anything, and just getting older. I think getting past 25 years old and starting to, meet people. It's my notions changed, and I think that was one of the things that. So everything I thought I knew, in life, I started to learn that I was wrong about so many things, and so my poetry was always really just a reflection of that. So when I moved from Bakersfield to Sacramento, life was black and white for me. Everything fit neatly into these boxes, and was, black, and African, and everybody stole everything from us, and if you were white, you were the devil, and it was what it was. And then you started to, meet people who start to change those notions. So, you get a brother who basically try to take advantage of you. Like, what the fuck is going on, bruh? We bruhs. Why are you trying to take advantage of me? And you meet somebody that's white, or you meet somebody that's something else, and they're trying to help you out. Mm-hmm. And so it starts to challenge everything that you think you know. And so I think that's where my poetry started to shift, is because it was always a reflection of me. Then I fell in love, and that did a lot of damage on trying to be angry. Because it's, I don't know too many people who can stay angry when love has them wide open. And I think that was, and she wasn't an angry person, so she was, one of those who smiled and had a positive outlook on life. And then I also had one of my cousins, and she was probably the most positive person I've ever met. And I didn't really meet her or spend time with her until I moved to Sacramento. But no matter what was going on in life, she had this positive outlook. And I was, at first I'm like, you're so full of shit. Nobody could be that fucking happy all the time. It's just impossible. But then as I started to get to know her, and get to know her better, and really just look at her life, I realized that just was her outlook, and that's who she was. And so I started to, morph as a person, and just, growing from that standpoint. The children, it actually took time away from the poetry, because when you're raising kids, who has time to write? And so, but love definitely changed it a lot.
Okay, very good, very good. So, all right. So you have two children, two twins. I mean, one twin. I mean, two twins.
Yes, I have 3 kids.
Okay. You got 3 kids?
3 kids.
Oh my God, you got 3 of them?
Yeah.
I didn't know you had 3 kids. Okay.
So I have twins, and I have an older boy that's 12. So.
Okay. All right. Very cool. I didn't know you had 3 kids. Okay. So you got 3 kids. You got twins, and then you got one that's not a twin. Okay,
Pretty good math, man.
No, wait a minute. I know. Thank you very much. I told you I wasn't good with numbers, but so I mean, do twins actually have like the psychic connection? Have you seen the psychic connection of twins?
Oh my God.
Do they have like a psychic? Like if one twin is over there and they get hit in the toe, do the other twin feel it?
Well, I remember when when the kids. So when kids are first born, or when kids are young, they cry. And you can't, as a parent, you can't understand why they're crying. Are you hungry? Do you need something? But you really can't understand it. So having a twin is great, because if one of the twins is crying or having a fit, you just go to the other twin. Hey, what's wrong with your brother? And no matter what's going on, he can always tell you, oh, this is what's wrong.
Oh, really?
This is what's, and it's, they, as far as the closeness, they've never really been separated. They've always had class together. If one gets sick and you try to pick one up, the other one's there waiting at the door to get picked up too.
Right.
And so the psychic connection is unreal.
That is awesome. I didn't know that was real.
Yeah, it is.
That is like some Doctor Who stuff right there. That's very cool. I like that. All right, so all right, I told you I was ill prepared. So okay. All right, so okay, I'm gonna switch to the woman. So it's Women's History Month, right?
Right.
So let's talk about women in poetry. So, okay, right now, who's your favorite female poet right now?
Favorite female poet? Are we talking just period?
I mean, alive. Right now. I mean, right now. We're gonna say alive and then dead, or alive and then past, alive and then in the ground.
Actually, for me right now, it really is one kind of the same. I'm a Nikki Giovanni fan.
Okay.
And I've talked to her and met her in person, and I mean, I love her work. The woman is phenomenal, and she's crazy as hell. So if you ever sit down and really talk to her, I mean, she is crazy in a good sense. Crazy in a I don't really give a shit what anybody thinks about me kind of sense. And and that's Nikki. But her poetry reflects that realness, and when you talk to her, when she speaks, is very real. So I would go with Nikki Giovanni.
Okay, so who's your favorite female poet that's in the ground? I mean, that's dead. I mean, that's planted. What?
There's 2. From a historical standpoint, Zora Neale Hurston, for me, definitely, just as far as I'm in love with the Harlem Renaissance movement as a whole, and what it meant for the arts, and all of that. And then locally, it would be a sister by the name of Angela Boyce who, moved to Sacramento from San Diego, and I had the pleasure of working with her as a poet, and she was, phenomenal, and she died very young, very prematurely, but she, left an imprint on this community here, left an imprint on the national poetry scene. She is largely the reason why slam poetry even made its way to Sacramento, at the time that it did, because that's what she brought, in the dynamics and the flavor that she added. So definitely, those would be my two.
Okay, very good, very good. So let's hit another poem.
All right.
And then I think of something else to ask you.
So a lot of people probably don't know. So I recently did an erotic poetry reading over at Luna's Cafe. And so for anybody who really knows me, that shit is left field for me. It's not something that, you like Sean, did an erotic poetry reading. And so Gentleman had actually asked me to do a naughty poetry reading. And so it was fun. It was good because it pushed me outside of my comfort zone. So I'm actually to share a piece from that, I believe.
Okay.
Wow. Let's see. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Let's go all the way in this shit. Let's see what happens. Can I rub the palm of your hands while I hold you close? Can I lightly nibble on the edge of your ear? Can I slowly rub my hands on the small of your back? Can I kiss you softly, gently? Can I carefully unbutton your blouse? Can I accidentally pour hot chocolate syrup over the tip of your erect Himalayan mountains? Can I navigate my tongue around your mountaintops before falling the syrup past the navel of your love? Can I deliberately perform an upward caress on your inner thighs? Can I kiss the wet lobbyists underneath your vibrating mistletoe? Can I gently lick the letters of my name on your clitoris? Can I stir the waters of your shore by gently sucking and then flicking my tongue around your erogenous zone? Can I hum your favorite Christmas carols against your clit while passionately moving my hands around your breasts? Are you excited? Can I dive in, shaking my nose and cheeks and chin in a hot cauldron of your love? Can I penetrate you with my finger and masterfully water bend your juice? Can I slowly slide the tip of my sleigh in your chimney while rubbing my bags of children's gifts up against your body? Can I synchronize the rhythm of my motion to the pulse of your soul while you ride my wild sleigh until your volcano erupts and your sweet hot lava drips and covers me in the juices of the holiday spirits? Can I be your Santa Claus coming down your chimney tonight?
Okay, I never heard that one before. That is indeed left field for you. I have never heard that before. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so it's like, all right. You got a mixture of Santa Claus and all kind of stuff happening there.
Well, Santa Claus is a freak.
You got to be a freak to break into your house.
Well, I mean, sneaking into your house.
Late at night and then leaving gifts.
Running around.
Like,
cookies, calling people.
That's the opposite. Right.
Got people cheating on their husbands.
Right, okay. And leaving coal in your stocking. I never liked that, Like, why do I have coal in my stocking? You know what I'm saying? I got a microwave. I don't need coal. But, all right, so that was crazy. I never heard that one from you. So where was this at? Luna's Cafe?
Luna's Cafe.
All right. I never heard that one before. All right. So, okay, so speaking of erotic poetry, so what would you tell a young female poet now? I mean, I know that you've heard a lot of female poets that came on stage. I'm sticking with the Woman History Month theme right now. Very, very short. What would you tell, because I know I hear a lot of female poets that get on the microphone, that do their thing. And so what would you tell a young female poet right now that where they should gear their work?
Well, I would tell you to go ahead and get that breakup piece out of your system. Go ahead and write that out. I hate dudes, fuck the guys. Get it out of your system. Right. And then dig deeper. and then really start to explore, how you want women to be known or how you want women to be remembered, how you want to be remembered as a woman. I think that's where I would go. And with any poet, get that one that's just, right there in front of you. Get that out your system and go ahead and really just continue to create beyond, that. But I don't really know that I've ever met, I haven't met too many female poets that didn't take the stage first, angry, at somebody who did them wrong or something. And it's vicious, man. I feel bad when I see, and I've seen some poets come up and hit the stage where the brother was actually in the audience. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, man.
Yes, I've seen that too.
So
they write this poem about, about homeboy. This guy. And so you have your head down like, oh my God. But if it's really good, you're like, oh my God, that was really good. Too bad I know, bruh. But
as a woman poet, what I would tell them though is, because they're going to applaud, that piece. Because every woman probably has had somebody who's done them wrong in some capacity or another. So they're going to stand up and give you a standing ovation and you go, girl, and applaud that. Don't come back and try to recreate that same thing week after week. And that's what I mean, get it out of your system. Because the problem that I see with a lot of, poets in general is that first piece that you've been holding on to, that's your signature piece. People will applaud that. And then after that, they continue to come back to the stage and they want to, give them that same work again and again, just a different variation or different flavor.
They want to recapture that high.
It's, the stage is addicting, and you can train poets, what you applaud for a lot of times is what poets start to create. So if you come in and you do a breakup piece, it's like, oh yeah, you go sister. And then every week, shit, how many relationships have you been in? It's like you breaking up every week. Do something with yourself. Look
right. You date and break up just to write a poem. Like, oh, this is gonna be a great poem.
On the flip side, I feel like I must have created some great poets along the way. Cause
right. Oh, snap. You're like, I know you're going to be a great poet because I'm going to fuck you up in your head. All right, very cool.
But no, seriously, I would just tell you, don't be afraid to really, look at what's going on in your life and to explore that because, poetry for me is really therapeutic more than anything. And it's, you can write all of the surface level stuff all you want to, and you can give everybody else what they want, but you need to get something out of it yourself. And, as a poet, be willing to go to those places or whatever, those things that you're carrying around like baggage so that you can really liberate yourself and free yourself from, from whatever it is that you're carrying. And that would be my message for, women poets and for poets in general. Is don't be afraid to, to write that piece. Don't be afraid of your truth, essentially.
Okay, very good. All right, I have a favorite poem that you do. I don't know if you brought it with you, but you know the one I'm talking about. The blue sheets.
White, yeah.
Yeah, blue sheets. So read that poem real quick for us, and I will ask you questions about that poem.
I was prepared. I knew he was going to ask me this.
This is my favorite one. This is your, the revolution will not be televised kind of.
All right. White sheets. White sheets walk city streets. White sheets walk city streets with guns. Run, nigga, run. Blue sheets walk city streets with guns. Run, nigga, run. White supremacy is what they be pressing. Blue sheets walk city streets with badges and guns. Run, nigga, run. White supremacy is what they be pressing. America is still regressing. Blue sheets. Cowards patrol city streets with badges and guns. Run, nigga, run. White supremacy is what they be pressing. America is still regressing, obsessing with oppression, confessions of hypocrisy, racism and poverty, hate and illiteracy, prison and slavery, lies of democracy. Uncle Sam and stolen land go together like a glove in a hand. You can't acquit when it fits like a white noose around a black neck, like black cargo being piled in slave ships, like black slaves being beat by nightsticks. You can't acquit when the crimes are sick like cocaine that will have you flying. Those cops show be lying. We thought she was reaching for a gun. We thought he was going to shoot her with his back. We didn't know she was having a seizure. We thought his wallet was a gat. Is that a fact? Is that a fact or another lie? When you make a mistake, do you always shoot 41 times? Do you apologize for your crimes? Do you admit that you were out of line? There's a thin line between life and death. You may still be breathing today, but your soul is cashed as final check. Check. Check your mind and your mental. Check your mind and your mental. Are all these assassinations coincidental? A coincidental accident, accidental, coincidental, unintentional incident, incidental accident, coincidental incident, a meteor misprint, a 40 and slip, a 50 trick, a happy trick, 31 shots fired, even had time to reload the clip. We just want to slow the subject down. That's why we kept pumping his body with lead even as his head was bouncing off the concrete ground. That's why we shot him in the back even as he was cuffed and pinned with his face on the ground. Now how's that story sound? Blue sheets with badges, modern-day assassins walk the city streets with guns. Run, nigga, run. White supremacy is what they be pressing. America is still regressing, obsessing with oppression, confessions of hypocrisy, racism and poverty, hate and illiteracy, prison and slavery, lies of democracy. Uncle Sam and stolen land, they go together like a glove in a hand. You can't quit when it fits like a white noose around a black neck, like black cargo being piled in slave ships, like black slaves being beat by nightsticks. You can't quit when the crimes are sick like cocaine that will have you flying. You see those cops, they sure be lying. And young brothers and sisters are dying. And the world is left with traumatized mothers and fathers crying. Thanks to the LAPD. Thank you to the Oakland PD. Thanks to the Sacramento PD. Thanks to the Bakersfield PD. Thanks to the BART PD. Thanks to the NYPD. Thank you to the judges in the NYC. Thanks to due process and opportunity. Thanks to politics and hypocrisy. Thanks to justice and democracy. Thanks to stereotyping and flawed policy. Thanks to schools for the accurate teaching of history. Thanks to Prop 21 for helping me to see kids belong in jails and penitentiaries. You sure have made me feel safe in the land of the free, land of milk and honey, land of opportunity. Everyone has the right to vote. All-inclusive democracy, doing what's best for the people, trickle-down Reaganomic policy. We're all treated equal in this utopian merit-based society. Everything we got is from hard work. No advantage has ever been given to me. Get on with our lives. No side effects from slavery. Everyone guaranteed due process. No signs of hypocrisy. The right to bear arms. We can handle the responsibility. We all get along in America because we're just one big, happy fucking family. Ain't that right? Ain't that right?
Yeah.
Ain't that right? You have the rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you if you live long enough to make it to a court of law. Blue sheets with badges, modern-day assassins, freeze and turn around with your hands in the air so we can start blasting. Blue sheets.
Word. Okay, so on this last segment, we're going to spend in our discussion, I want to do some politics, right? You got spoken word in politics is like peanut butter and jelly, or if you're really poor, peanut butter and honey. So,
You tell me.
okay, I use tortillas. I really have tortillas. Because I'm hella poor. Okay. So I'm just finishing the New Jim Crow, the book.
Right.
Have you read it? No,
I haven't read it yet.
Okay. I'm on the last chapter, and oh my God, if y'all haven't read the New Jim Crow, y'all need to read the New Jim Crow. It is an amazing book. You will find yourself saying to yourself, "Damn." So, by Michelle Alexander. So I know that you have an antagonistic relationship with police, right? Because a lot of times I find it very strange. Like sometimes I almost wishing that I can be like other races, right? When they approach the police, they be like, "How you doing?" They just be parked and they be like, "Hey, how you doing?" They be having this nice conversation with the police officer, and I be like, "That's so nice." I wish I could have that kind of relationship. And I was talking to somebody, I was like, if you ever see a black person jaywalk, right? They are hella brave, right? Because not too many black people jaywalk because of that one thing. Like they be like, we wait for the light to change. So,
but that's part of it. The other part of it is, we drive through our neighborhoods and those buckets are dipping hard, and so you don't jaywalk because you don't want to get hit by a car.
Well, that too.
Pedestrians don't have right away.
That too. But they don't drive very fast when they be like, when they be dipping though. So you can actually time it, right? Right. They really hella slow. They be like,
Go ahead.
So I know. Tell me about an incident that you had with a police officer that really triggered.
Just one.
Yeah, I know you have a grip on them because the stuff you do when stopped by the police, I wish that I could do, but I'm not that brave. So go ahead.
I would tell you it really, and I have to give you more than one, but I'll tell you it started, in Bakersfield. It started young. I may have been 10 or 11 years old, You know, and I remember we would sit out, you know, in the front yard and sit out on porches, and, you know, we all, you know, we lived in a neighborhood, and I know that's foreign for some people today, but we actually knew our neighbors and, you know, hung out. There was a lot of kids on the block, and I remember, you know, a cop coming through the neighborhood, and I don't even know what it was for, but I remember it was like 9:55 or something like that, and we were at my friend's house, and, you know, they come by, and they're, you know, on their little loudspeaker in the car, you know, you guys have 5 minutes to make it back to your houses. And as we're walking, you know, home, they're driving behind us. You know, we're like 11 years old, 12 years old. And it's all, you know, neighborhood. It's all, you know, everything is safe. And they're driving behind us 4 minutes, 3 minutes, you know, with the lights flashing and stuff like that. So, you know, you get that experience. You know, then we get to high school and, you know, every day I pretty much get followed home or followed by the police, you know, in some form or fashion. I'm out driving. It could be, you know, 12 noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I get on the freeway and get a loud music ticket on the freeway. You know, like you can hear music on the freeway. You know, but it was always this cat and mouse game of where are you coming from? You know, what are you doing over here? You know, this and this and that. And so it was always trying to stay one step ahead of them, always trying to figure out, you know, this thing. And so, you know, over time I started to get, you know, more and more angry. And that was part of the reason I ended up in Sacramento. I remember, I think I was washing my car one day, and it's middle of the day, and I'm washing my car, and a cop car drives up, and he just stops in front of my house. You know, and he just doesn't do anything, just stops in front of my house and just starts looking at me. And my mom's looking out the window, and I'm like, you know what? You know? And she's like, yeah, I got to get you out of here before you get killed. Because you know, your anger is starting to become, you know, uncontrollable. So I moved to Sacramento, and it wasn't quite as bad, but, you know, some of my worst experiences, I think, were here. You know, I remember dropping off a video over in Del Paso Heights at the Big Ten video store, and I pulled into the parking lot, and about 4 cop cars pulled up on me real quick, you know, get out of, you know, I didn't get out of the car, of course. I mean, you know this fucking routine. You keep your hands on the steering wheel in plain sight. You don't move, no fast movements. But, you know, they get out of the car, they have the lights flashing, and there's 4 or 5 officers with their guns drawn. You know, and so, you know, they run your plates, they run your license, they run your tags, they run everything. And they say, you know, sir, you have a broken tail light. And I'm like, you know, so, you know, you drive around for probably like 2 hours just trying to calm the fuck down because you're just, you know, you're pissed. Or, you know, the last time I will tell you is, you know, getting arrested at the airport, you know, and it was, and, you know, and that was one of those situations where I'm picking up a friend from the airport. You know, we don't like to pay for parking. I don't know. I don't know what airline she's flying in on. Communication was bad. You know, little combination. Hey, I'll be there at 8 o'clock, and then you get a call saying, you know, my plane's running a little late. So, you know, I'm circling in, trying to figure out where she's coming from, so we can just load and hit the road, you know, and roll. So, you know, the first time I'm pulling in real slow, you know, a cop comes and knocks on my window. He's like, you know, you got to keep it moving. And I was like, I'm just trying to see where my friend is coming from. You know, no problems. You know, whatever the case may be. Well, if you don't keep it moving, I'm going to take you in. So, all right. Fuck, you know, I drive back around. You know, I see my friend pulling up, you know, coming out of the airport terminal. And so I stop, I park, we get ready to load. Cop knocks on my window. Can I see your driver's license, please? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So give him my license. And at this point, I say, you know, what happened, officer? He says, well, you know, you don't have a California plate on the front of your car because I had my fraternity plate on my car. You don't have a California plate on the front of your car. And I was cool until I looked at my rear view window, and then I saw the car behind me didn't have any plates at all. And, you know, for whatever reason, that was my moment. So the officer comes back up to me, and I'm like, hey, I got to ask you this. You know, are you asking me questions because you just want to fuck with me? Like you don't have anything better to do with your time? Or are you serious? Because you had to see that car behind me with the license plate missing just like mine, you know, with all of this and this and that. And he says, you know, you say one more thing to me, I'm going to take you in. And so I hit him with the NBA thing, and I just kind of like, I don't say anything. I just kind of wave him off, and I turn around, and I start going back to my thing. And next thing I know, I feel somebody grab him from behind. And, you know, and he's not saying I'm under arrest. He's just grabbing me from behind, and he's trying to, you know, I'm thinking he's trying to rough me up. And I used to wrestle, so I'm like, man, you know, what the well, you got to come better than that, son. You know? And so I'm trying not to like just grab him and just, you know, dip him because I was still in fighting trim at the time. You know, but at the same time, you're not saying I'm under arrest. And so I'm not about to be, you know, nobody's going to beat my ass out here at the airport as though it don't matter. And so finally he's like, you know, put your arms behind your back. You're under arrest. But, you know, I'm going to break your fucking arms. Oh, it's an arrest. Oh, okay. You know, so, you know, we go down or whatever. And, you know, you go down and they take you. And so at that point, I came back to my senses a little bit, and I had to switch gears and code switch, and you know, and start trying to get nice because now it's, you know, shit, you can't go downtown. The game changed, and so, you know, at that instance, really, you know, it was my car is here in the parking thing. It's a stick shift. My homegirl I'm picking up don't know how to drive a stick, you know, so we all just screwed up every way around. You're about to tow your car. You're about to get arrested, and so, you know, they fingerprint me, they book me, they, you know, they take me. They don't get me downtown because, you know, there's some other officers coming in kind of like, man, you got arrested for that? You know, what's going on? And so, you know, I was like, you look familiar. And I started striking up a conversation with other officers trying to, you know, swing the tide in my favor. So fortunately, you know, I got off on that. You know, I did a little Western correctional course. Because, you know, it's, you know, the justice system is funny, right? You know, no matter what you're charged with, you know, they're always going to try to give you something that you can do to please so that you don't really actually have to go to court. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, at first you're always like, man, fuck the system. You know, we're going to fight this. We're going to fight this, you know. But I was a student, and I was studying engineering, so I didn't have time to be going back and forth to court. I would have flunked all my shit. And so, you know, they offered me, oh, you know, pay $200 and take this Western correction course and, you know, and all of this stuff, and, you know, and then we'll just wipe your record clean. I was like, yeah, that's it. $200, take this little exam, you know, talk it out. I understand the laws and all of that. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. See how brave he is? I wouldn't even did all that. I'd be like, yes, officer.
It was anger, foolishness. You know, it was like.
You're so brave, man. I couldn't do that. All right, because I've seen some things. I've seen a friend of mine, he kind of lost his mind a little bit, and they don't even ask questions. They just come with their guns drawn, you know, and you be like, and, you know, that was the first experience I had with just seeing.
Well, Sacramento cops are a little different. You know, like if you're in LA, you don't talk to cops. There's no negotiation. You don't talk to them. You don't say shit. Because they don't really get out. They get out in riot gear.
Right, yeah.
They get out of the car like in riot gear, and if you standing there in front of them, they're going to hit you with the club first and start asking questions after that. So
if that.
You know, in Sacramento, you know, they come out like, oh, you know, can you keep it moving? You know, keep moving. So, you know, they start to try to, you know, to deal with your logical side first. But in L.A., they don't get paid for that. They come in and crack heads. And Bakersfield is like that, and Oakland is, you know, a lot like that too, so.
Yeah. Well, I once saw this brother, and he was walking down the street, and a friend of mine knew him, and he was all beat up, right? His face was jacked up, and I was like, what the hell happened to you? Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, well, the police officer came in my house, beat me up, mm-hmm. right? But they had the wrong guy. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, you need to go to the NAACP. He was like, who's that? And I was like, what the fuck? all right. I was like, you don't know who the NAACP is? But yeah, that's very interesting to me. I just don't see how, you know, the police. Every time you tell me a story about the police, I'm always. That's one thing. If I was going to hero worship you, that'd be one area where I would hero worship you, because just to be able to talk back to a police officer, I don't have the guts for that. So we're gonna finish up with one last poem, and then we are going to call it the night.
All right, yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
All right, so we'll do this piece, which is more recent, and it kind of reflects, you know, my mentality about poetry and my mentality just period. And it's called Get Up. Every time I fall down, I get up. I get up for every nappy-haired, knock-kneed boy who's ever been called a nigger. I get up for every little kid that came from a broken home. I get up for every kid that was taught to get low at the sound of gunfire. I get up for every student that's had a teacher who didn't believe in them. I get up for every brother who's been attacked, cuffed, pushed down on the street, and thrown in the back of a police car for not having a California license plate. I get up for every human being who's been told that they ain't shit, will never be shit, and can't do shit about it. I get up for every person who's ever been told that they're going to hell for not going to church. I get up for every person who's ever had an unrealistic dream. I get up for everyone who's ever been poor, oppressed, endured racism, and fought through the sickness without health care. I get up for everyone who's too afraid to get up. I get up every time I fall down so that you know. I get up every time I fall so that you know lying on the ground is no place for a child of God, regardless of what man thinks about you. I get up for you. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question. So this is very, very brief. I know all you open micers out there are ready to go. That's right? You ready? You ready to go? No, that's right. No. Okay. So you are a internet guru, right? He has followers from all over the world, right? From India to the Great Wall of China that follow you around online, and he says these very profound things that be online that very like. It's almost like he's sitting somewhere with his legs crossed, floating in midair, right? Right. Right. What's that rat that be on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What's the name? Splinter. People like, what I'm saying?
My old master, Matayoshi.
Okay. So tell us about that. So how did that happen? How did that whole thing happen where you like a internet guru for people that is online?
Ooh. I would say, so a couple of things. One, Facebook happened. And, I decided that I was going to post, just whatever it was that I was thinking at any given point in time. So it started with that. And I would write poetry, or I would post short thoughts or, phrases or whatever. And so part of a reflection of where I'm at in my life right now, it tends to be more positive than negative. As far as the world following, after I had Facebook and I started to meet people that way, I created a blog site. And two things that happened with the blog, SeanKing.net. Yeah. But two things happened with the blog. One, my cousin Sheila moved to India and was teaching dance in India. And so she had a blog and she had students that she was teaching in India, at the university level, teaching dance to. And I had my blog. And so, I started reading their stuff and reaching out to them because they were amazing. You just start meeting people in other parts of the world and you're like, man, it's incredible, how you're living and the, your passion for what you do and all of that stuff. And so they started reading my blog and start, going through that. And they're like, man, I want to meet you. You got to fly out to India so I can meet you. And so it started there, and then you start getting people in, Syria or Pakistan, because Pakistan and India, if it wasn't for that war, it's basically the same, people. So you have Pakistan and India, you had Syria, and then some kind of way it got Australia jumped in there, and then Toronto and some of the other stuff. And it's just, there's writers all over the world, and there's people who have similar experiences, to the ones that we have, and people are hungry for, for truth, and they're hungry for, interaction, and I think in that way, it just kind of grew out of that. And then the other thing I would add for me, like anybody who, posts a comment or follows me on my blog, I'm a person who I need to know the people. You can't just be like this silent follower who's like, oh, I like. I'm going to reach out and be like, hey, so you're from Zambia. Tell me more about where you're from. Tell me more about, your experiences. And that really just goes into me trying to be less ignorant about other people all over the world. It's increasing my cultural awareness. It goes back to an incident that happened in college where I realized, man, you are fucking stupid. And so I started trying to grow and start trying to understand beyond everything, beyond what I thought I knew. And that was kind of where it kind of all just meshed together. But it's great, to have family or to have friends and to have people that, that you have a good positive relationship all over the world.
Okay, read your iconic guru piece. The one be like, okay, now you here, now go past that. Now you're there, go past that. Can you read that poem? Do you have that poem with you?
I think I might have it.
And then we're gonna actually call it. I promise, right? I will end it right there.
It's somewhere in here, so why don't you?
You better have it, huh? Why do I do what? What?
Talk to the people about something.
Talk to the people about something. Okay. All right. Hey, how you doing? Where you from? Hey. Okay. You haven't found it yet? No.
It's funny because I was just looking at the shit too.
Yeah, find that shit.
Yeah, it was just,
That's good right there. That's good. That's good.
All right,
that's a
man.
good piece. No. Keep looking.
Damn. Now you got me on the spot looking for shit. You know I'm
That's
artistic.
right. Keep on trucking. You got the piece. He found the piece. Everybody clap your hands because he found the piece. This is a very cool poem. This is Guru Sean King poem right now. He turned into Splinter. All right.
And so so this is one of those pieces where it's like you can put it on the mirror and you can read this, low enough to where you can still see yourself. As you read it to yourself. It's not me talking to you. It's me talking to myself. Think about breaking through every barrier and ceiling in your path. Shake away from every hand trying to hold you down. Rip out of the grasp of every negative idea stifling your growth while stiff-arming your past failures and go. As high as you believe you can possibly go and then keep going. Get rid of your clothes, your earrings, your jewelry, all of your personal belongings that you're afraid to lose. Drop your baggage at the curb and forget all those dreadful memories that rear their ugly heads every time you start to reach for greatness. And bend your knees while standing on a cumulus cloud and jump right out of the galaxy and then keep going. Throw away your doubts. Throw away your fear. Throw away your self-hate, your lack of confidence, your insecurity. Discard all your mental inhibitions until love is the only thing you have left, and then keep going. Start believing the impossible is possible. Start believing you are destined for great things. Start believing your dreams are not wishful thinking, but prophetic visions of realities yet to come. Use your love to propel you. Replace your hesitation with unwavering faith and grab a hold of your destiny and then keep going. Now open your eyes and look at yourself. Do you see who you are yet? Thank you.
Put your hands together for Sean King, guru, activist, IT professional, and hopefully one day soon to transcend humankind and become
I've been looking for a poet.
Ra himself.
I feel out of touch because everybody has like a stage name.
You don't need one, man.
So I feel out of
Sean
touch.
King is like the best name ever.
So maybe I can say Sean King the Consigliere.
The what? The who?
It's Godfather. He's the advisor.
Oh.
When everybody comes to.
Okay. Sean King Esquire. All right. No, Sean King is the bomb. Sean King is the bomb. Because as soon as you say, because you can't say Sean by itself, right? You got to say Sean King. It's like it all goes together. It's the perfect. That's almost like a superhero, name of somebody like Clark Kent, right? It's like Sean King. It's like, yes, I am a lowly IT professional. Then at night I bust forth and become a poetry god, right? All right. So that's Coffee and Poets. Then we're gonna have open mic after this, and we are here on 11th and 8th Street for all you people on the internet. And thank you once again, Sean King, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me out. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Absolutely.